What's up guys, Barry here, and if it's your first time to the channel, we talk about beat making and music production within the Maschine. So if that's your thing, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. With that said, in today's video, we're going to break down my submission to Tracklib's lo-fi beat battle. And the reason I wanted to do so is I ended up sampling all 5 songs to make my one submission. After downloading the 5 tracks off of Tracklib, I knew I needed to get organized, and the first step in doing so was bringing them into Mixed in Key, which is a piece of software that is becoming a mainstay in my workflow, especially when sampling, as it gives me 2 pieces of key information, the tempo and the key. From there, I bring the samples into its own folder, where the information that we gathered from Mix in Key is now included in the title, which makes it so much easier and quicker to use when working and sampling within Maschine. I've sampled Bob James for previous beats. In fact, I did his beat battle a few months ago, and I wanted to start with something familiar. So Bob James' Miranda was the first sample I loaded up. Here's the part of the song that I sample. From there, I pitched the sample down 4 semitones. From there, I throw on Maschine's stock filter and opt to use a bandpass mode to get rid of some of the low and higher frequencies. From there, I end up chopping up the sample. One very important thing to keep in mind is that they should be all in the same choke group, especially if you don't want them to be overlapping one another. With the first sequence laid down, I needed to find sections within the other samples to build around it. To add a dreamy element to this beat, I sampled 3 sections from this song. So all of them are reversed and pitched to match the first sample. So here's the first chop in its original state. And now with it reversed. And as far as pitch goes, I needed to match the first sample, which results in it being pitched up 9 semitones. The second chop has a very similar process. And here's the original chop. Despite it being the same source, this chop ends up going down 3 semitones. And here's the last chop. At its original key and with the reverse disengaged, it sounds like this. And similar to the second chop, this one goes down 3 semitones and reversed. So here's the sequence for the second sample. And together with the first sample, it sounds like this. With Chillhop Music being a lo-fi hip-hop label, I knew I couldn't overcomplicate the beat. This was a difficult one to sample, but I managed to find this key gem at the end of the song. And that's all I needed. From there, I needed to find a root note to match with the first sample. So it sounds like it'll work at +3 semitones. From there, I add on a few effects. I start with a low-pass filter. And for some added crunch and character, I throw on Maschine's lo-fi plugin. With that, I now have this playable instrument. I was also able to find some isolated percussions that I could use for the beat. And here's a section from the song where I found them. And that's a great segue into the drums. They come from one of my favorite Native Instruments expansion packs, Crate Cuts. And it's just a simple boom bap pattern. With 2 more songs to sample and the beat starting to get really full, I knew I had to add samples sparingly. So similar to the guitar, I wanted to take those bells and create a counter melody. But after some time, I had to scrap that idea as I felt that the beat was getting too busy, so I had to find another section to sample. So I find that section and decide to use it as ambience and added texture for my beat. So either I got lazy or I couldn't figure it out. But with the last sample, I ended up just using it for the intro. With all the samples used and the drums laid down, all I needed to do now was add some bass. And with the beat done, I just recorded it in the arranged page as a simple clip. Alright guys, so those were all of the elements to the beat, and honestly there was a ton of filtering and EQing that I did during the mixing phase within Logic. But before we get to the beat, I'm going to ask you guys to hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already, and consider subscribing for more beat making content. With that said, let's jump into Logic and check out the final beat.